listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and have your work build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.
Hello and welcome to the Author Inside You podcast. I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Joining us today is Maria Desmundi, author of 8 award-winning children's books. Her latest book is Fruit Salad Friend, Recipe for a True Friend, which will be released in 2018. Maria was born and raised in Michigan, and she's the founder of Cardinal Rule Press, which publishes children's books. Welcome, Maria. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Maria, you seem like a very, very busy person, but can you first touch base on what inspired you to write your first book?
Absolutely. I was in the classroom as a classroom teacher. I taught first and second grade for over a decade.
Aww.
And whenever there were issues in the classroom with my little community of friends, I would search for really good children's books that I could use to really bring that message home. Because I think when children hear adults bantering and just giving advice and, do this, do that, it kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But when they can relate to a character in the story, I think that lesson really goes right to their heart.
Sure.
Yeah, so I was looking for some type of a book that talked about, having the courage to be yourself, coming to school and just being who you were and not worrying about what other people thought. And everything that I found were stories about horses and dogs and cats that were talking. And I thought, what about a real kid, a real character that, someone could open up the book and connect to? And so I wrote my first book, Spaghetti in a Hot Dog Bun, because I felt like there was a lack of that type of book.
Mm-hmm. Great. And what a cute, as I mentioned to you earlier, cute cover of your, the illustration is very cute of that girl. I can see people relating just to the illustration first. And then, when you look at books, sometimes kids or adults will look at a cover. And I would think that this cover would make you gravitate towards it.
Yeah, and the title, too. A lot of people
fun.
Well,
right.
What is this book about? It's spaghetti in a hot dog bun?
Very fun.
Right. So when after you finished writing the book, did you try it out on your students before you published it?
I really didn't. No, I just kind of went for it. I submitted it to 90 different traditional publishers, and I ended up working with a company that was local here in Michigan, non-traditional. So at the time, it was called a subsidized publisher, meaning you invest in the project, but they take you through all of the entire process and all of the steps. And they were great to work with. I was working full time. I didn't really know anything about, the book business other than I knew children's literature and what was good. And that came out, Spaghetti in a Hot Dog Bun came out. It was released in 2008.
Congratulations. So what did your children in your classroom think? Were they all excited?
Oh, they were so excited, and then I had a baby. It really changed things. So my book came out, and
they do that.
A few months later, we had our first daughter, and I then went part-time, and I wrote a second book that was released in 2011, and when that book came out, I had my second child. And I actually resigned from teaching at that time because the business started picking up, the book sales, my speaking engagements, and I thought, there is no way I can juggle all of these, balls at one time.
Right.
So I resigned from teaching. It was really, really hard to say, oh my goodness, I went to college for this degree, and I'm going to walk away after just, 10 or 11 years. But I did because the numbers were telling me it was okay. It was going to be okay.
So how do you go from just writing a book until now all of a sudden you have people who want to hear you speak?
Yeah.
What was that process? How did you do it?
How did you do that leap?
Yeah, how did you do it?
Well, the lucky part for me was being a teacher, we would hire authors. It's really big in Michigan and across the country, literacy is big. But in Michigan, they focus on literacy in the month of March. So I would see authors come in, and I saw our school paying thousands of dollars to fly these authors in, put them in a hotel, And I thought, well, that looks really exciting. And then the author would speak, and I would look around, and kids would be on the floor sleeping. And I thought, okay, there's something missing here. That, we need to hire authors that are dynamic and that are exciting and know kids and the age appropriateness. So that's when the book came out, I thought, well, I'm going to put together a program, and I'm going to see if I can speak at schools. And honestly, when I first started out in 2008, I was sending postcards to all the schools with stamps and handwriting everything. But what really worked for me was word of mouth, because I'm a people person, I'm a communicator. So when I went to a school, I would build that relationship with whoever I was working with, whether it be the principal or the media specialist, and that those relationships and then my speaking, connected, and word of mouth happened. And so that's when the business really started building.
Wow, that's great. Well, that's a good information for our listeners too, that schools, a lot of authors say they have gone to schools, but I don't know if they thought about the full context, as you have said, that their schools are hiring people to come speak. So get on that bandwagon, not just do a reading.
Yeah, and Leah, something else that's really important is to do the research. So depending on what state you're in, research what budgets schools are receiving. So in the state of Michigan, there is a speaking and assembly budget that a lot of the school districts get. So I knew that I wasn't, going to the schools and, priced too high, because I knew there was a budget for it. So that's another thing to consider.
And then you can find that information pretty readily on the internet?
You can per district, per state. And then they also have a lot of the states have grants that schools can apply for to have speakers. So if I have a school that says, we're a low income school and we don't have the funds, I usually offer a discount. And then I'll also point them in the direction of applying for a grant to be able to pay for it.
Great idea.
Yeah. And then you're helping the school also.
Yeah.
And then do you just speak to schools in Michigan, or have you traveled around?
Yeah, that's a great question, Matt. So I have 3 children, and I still have one at home with me.
Yeah.
And I've got very clear boundaries in between my business and my home life. So I do not travel out of the state for speaking engagements. I've taken 2 speaking engagements on, and both were in Orlando, and we took the family to Disney World.
Fun.
Oh, that's a good place to take the family, right?
It is. So I offer virtual visits, which is, instead of telling a school, no, I cannot come to your school because I don't travel, I offer a virtual visit. And so it's a little bit shorter, it's much less expensive, and we connect through a program similar to Skype. So that's really cool.
And then did the schools buy copies of the books, or did the kids take a flyer home and ask their parents to buy the book?
Yes, yep. They purchase copies of the book, and it's usually about 10 to 15%. So book sales aren't super big when I go to school visits. It kind of depends on, what school district, what the income level in the district is. But if there's a school of about, 500 students, I'll usually sell about 50 to 70 books.
Great.
So Maria, with Cardinal Rule Press, so you're the founder of this publishing company, and you just do children's books. So how do you find illustrators, and what about editors and typesetters and everything like that?
Yeah, this has been a really fun part for me, because leaving teaching and then coming to, work from home, and my speaking engagements, I usually do about 50 to 70 a year. So I'm not out of the house a ton. And it
sounds like a lot.
Yeah. Well, they're like half days, so it's not a ton, but it gets really lonely, between being a mom at home with the little ones and then you're working on the computer. So this is what I've done is I've used, again, the strategy of word of mouth. So I've talked to different people in the industry. And for example, with illustrators, I'll start there. I work with a company out in New York, and it's an agency, and they hire out illustrators. So you can look at the portfolio online, and there's hundreds of portfolios. And sometimes I'm overwhelmed, so I'll just email, my contact there and say, this is kind of the style I'm looking for. And then she'll pull 6 portfolios for me. What's your budget, Maria? What's the story about? And then we communicate through an agent. So it's really organized. It's great because deadlines are met. I don't have to worry about, working on contracts on my own. Everything's handled through a middleman.
Great.
So I've really just done a lot of asking for references. As far as finding printers, the same thing, asking for references, asking for, samples to see what the work is like. And if anyone hearing this interview wants to contact me, I am more than happy to share my vendors and the different people in the industry I work with, because I'm at a point where it's working and it's going smoothly, and I'd love to, share the wealth over here.
Sure. Well, how could people contact you?
Oh, they can contact me by email. That's probably the easiest.
Okay.
If you put it in the show notes, Maria@mariadesmondi.com.
Great.
Okay, that's great. And speaking of your webpage, the illustrations on your webpage are great. I mean, just the whole style of your webpage is just very fun.
Thank you. And I should tell you, starting out, it was in 2008. So Apple computers had this thing where you could build your own website back in the day. And that's how I started out. So for people listening, I didn't have a budget back then. I was just getting started. So I did my website by myself, and all the marketing was done by myself. And then once I started bringing in income, I hired out somebody. I outsourced someone to do the website. And the tricky part, Matt and Leah, when I decided to start a publishing company, kind of like that, when I crossed that bridge.
Yes.
It was when I started working with an NFL player who wanted to publish a book, and my distributor said, okay, well, you need to have like an official publishing press if you're going to be taking on other people's work.
Oh, okay.
So there's one website and one company that is my author platform, and there's a separate one for my publishing platform, which is Cardinal Rule Press. So it's a little bit tricky because I'm working with two websites, two platforms, and then ultimately I'm working with two different avatars, or target markets, whatever you want to call it. So it's parents and teachers who are seeking me out as an author, and then it's publishers and authors who are seeking me out as a publisher.
Right.
So as the business has grown, it's gotten a little bit more complicated. And with that, I've brought on members to my team, and now, there are 10 people that I work with on a consistent basis in Cardinal Rule Press, and so it's really grown, and it's exciting.
I bet it's very exciting.
I would think.
Well, I have to say, looking through your website, everything's very easy to find.
Oh, good. Thank you. And one of the things I love to do is professional development. So I listen to a ton of podcasts, and these are the things that you pick up and you learn. How can you audit your website? How can you make it really easy and simple for someone coming to your website? So that's really good advice, is, listening and learning constantly.
Right. So who's your typical client for your publishing company?
So I've worked, like I said, a professional athlete, and I have another professional athlete in the works who's interested in publishing a story, a children's book story. And then I've also worked with a juice bar company, which was a really cool project. They wanted to publish a book under their own company name, but they wanted my consulting services. So Cardinal Rule Press, charged them a consulting fee and work with them through the whole process, but they were still able to put their own company name on.
Wow, that must have been fun.
Yeah.
It was. And so, yeah, it's a really great book about, how vegetables are so good for you, and how you can get them in a smoothie. And now they're sold at all of the juice bars across the country.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, every single project I take on is unique and different. And the publishing company has only been around for 2 years, so I've only had 3 clients, and I only take on one project a year. That's the other thing. So for people listening, thinking, "Oh my goodness, she's doing so much," well, no, I'm raising a family, and I take on one project.
Right.
Because, at the end of the day, you can't forget about your backlist. You have to know that those titles that came out, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, if they're still in print, they still need to be marketed and talked about. So it's not like I'm only working on this new project. It's constantly working on every single book.
So let's talk about your marketing techniques. What are you doing for your books?
Well, my very first line of defense when I'm marketing is grassroots style, which is you don't pay any money, and
yeah,
that's my first. And I love unique advantages. So, for example, video's really hot right now. A recent marketing project I did was I pulled together, let's say you go to one of the books that I wrote on Amazon. I pulled together some of the 5-star reviews. I, threw them into the computer, put them up on like a video platform, put a little bit of non-copyrighted music to it and made like a 30-second video that I can share on social media.
Oh, okay.
So it plays real slowly and you can read, testimonials about the book. So that's like a new hot marketing trend in the book industry.
Great.
So, anything that I can do. And now if I'm not able to do something like that, the next thing I would do is, I would go maybe to Fiverr and find somebody who could do it really inexpensive. But I do try to think of how can I do something without paying a fee first, just because that's kind of how I got started and it's worked for me. So, so a lot of creative marketing styles, a lot of creative strategies. I once ran a contest where anyone who took a picture with my book in a different location across the country, they were entered in the contest. So, for example, like someone took a picture in front of the Eiffel Tower, in front of the Statue of Liberty, and they had to post it on Facebook at the time.
Okay.
So, for example, if a woman named Sally enters the contest, she takes a picture of my book in front of the Eiffel Tower and shares it with all of her Facebook fans, and she has 700 fans or followers or friends. A lot of those people are going to see that picture. That's marketing. They might wonder, what's that book she's holding up?
Right.
So the winner of the contest, it was really fun. I mean, we had a picture of it in front of the Vatican. The winner was in front of the... Yes,
cool.
How fun to have your book. I mean, that's your book.
Traveling around the world.
Look at this. This is my book.
I know. Places I've never been. So the winner was in front of the Sydney Opera House. And so the winner was... judged the furthest from my P.O. box in Wixom, Michigan.
Okay.
So the furthest in miles, and they won a set of 4 tickets to Disney World.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
I thought you were going to say they won some of your books. I didn't realize it was such a big contest. Wow!
But I got a discount on the tickets, and so the cost for me was about $400. And so that this wasn't exactly grassroots, but this was creative marketing.
Yeah.
And my book sales always drop in the summer. They doubled that summer.
Wow. Congratulations.
That
Good
is
job.
great.
Thank you.
That is a great idea.
Yeah, and it's fun to come up with this kind of stuff.
Oh, I'm
it
sure.
makes the job interesting.
Sure.
Right. So do you print on demand, or do you print a load of books? Like say when you go to the school and you sell the books, do you have boxes of them, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I print large quantities based on sales, and they're shipped to Chicago, where my distributor is. And then I do have a stock of books in my home, like in storage at my house, that I take to school visits.
Oh, great.
And then if I'm running out of books, the distributor can send me some more. But I do have a small stock at my house.
Okay, and then when you buy them on Amazon, does Amazon contact the distributor in Chicago?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yep. Yeah. So the only orders I'm handling are my speaking engagements, and everything else is handled through the
that's
distributor.
Nice. Yeah. That's great. So
It didn't used to be that way. Like when I started, I didn't want to, pay my distributor a cut like that. I mean, it's a pretty big cut. But it got to the point where I couldn't handle the shipping on my own anymore. It was just, too much. I needed the help.
Right.
So.
You're looking for envelopes all the time, right?
Oh yeah. And I know the people at the post office by name.
Well, congratulations on your business growing that much that you could get a distributor.
Right. That was
Thank
great.
you. Yeah.
Well,
I never thought I would do this. That's the shocking part is I thought it would be fun to write a book, and then now here I am. It's an actual business and income. It's really interesting how that works out.
Yes, because you took the first step, and then you don't know what's going to happen. And look, just exciting to see where your life journey goes.
Yeah, and I hope the people listening know that really great things are possible when you do something, one, you enjoy, right? So I really loved children's literature, and I was passionate about it. So I enjoyed it. And 2, when you put forth like your heart and soul into it, when you put forth the effort, I really do think good things can happen.
Right.
Great. Well, let's talk about purchasing your book. Where would our listeners purchase your book?
Well, they can purchase it if there's a Barnes & Noble's near them. They can go into a Barnes & Noble store.
Great.
They might not carry all of the 8 titles. Sometimes they have like 1 or 2. And then Amazon's a really good place to get it with free shipping.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then my distributor ships as well, so you can purchase it off of my website as well.
Off your website. Okay. Great. So let's go back to the illustrations. Did you have any difficulties with the publishing company with your ideas didn't match theirs?
Not so much, but I have had situations where I've worked with illustrators where there was like a lack of communication as far as like what I was looking for in the illustrations and what was actually produced. And what I found to be really helpful is getting on the phone or getting on a video call with that illustrator and talking it out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Good.
that's where email, sometimes you can't express everything in email. So I found that sometimes when things weren't communicated very well, getting on that face-to-face or, phone call really helped.
Okay, good. Yeah, because sometimes, like, I might write an email and someone will say, "Oh, you're upset." I'm like, "No, I wasn't upset." How'd you read into that? No.
But you used all capital letters.
Right,
I
right.
was excited.
Right.
So it is interesting that, you text.
Right. You can't tell someone's tone necessarily
So,
by their writing.
You actually worked with one of our authors that we spoke to.
You worked with Stephanie Baruffi.
I did, yes. And it was a really fun experience for me because she is like ultra motivated. And so what we did this summer is I run group coaching sessions and I take on published authors. And what we do is we work for 6 weeks. It's a once a week video call and I educate them each week on a different marketing tactic or marketing strategy. And I give them homework assignments and they have access to me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week via a private Facebook group so they can reach out and ask questions and what should I do about this. And so we really work closely together for 6 weeks and it's a small group. I don't take on any more than 6 people at a time. Okay. And then at the end of the 6 weeks, we set some goals and, we keep in touch. But Steph did all of her homework assignments. And it was really cool to see her grow as an author and become so confident in trying these new strategies. And that's really a big thing is, as an author, you have to look at this as a business instead of saying, well, my publisher is going to hire a publicist and they're going to do the marketing. Well, those budgets run out.
Right.
Yeah. And when those budgets run out, no one's marketing your book. So it's really important to educate yourself and to put forth a plan and then put that plan into action. So that's what I help authors to do.
Great. So you're still teaching.
I am.
You're still a teacher.
Yes,
your degree is still working.
Yeah. So
that's probably why I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
Because it's like people and talking and teaching.
Right.
And do you do that year round, having a group of 6 people or just certain times?
I do. So it runs for 6 weeks. So, for example, our fall session will be starting in a few weeks. So I'm not sure when this will air, but and then we'll do a winter and a spring. So, once a quarter.
Okay.
Well, congratulations.
Great.
Another offshoot of your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Because income's not just going to come in from the book sales. Mm-hmm. You have to pull in different sources in order to really make it run as a business.
Right. And you do that with authors who are already published, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
mm-hmm.
Great.
I actually wrote a children's book, but I'm too afraid. The illustration, who am I going to get to? I don't have the money to, have someone illustrate or whatever.
That's Leah's stumbling block, illustrating her children's book that she wrote.
Matt is always like, just keep looking, keep trying, and the podcast is to help authors and then also me to get myself motivated. And when I listen to everyone we have spoken to, I love listening to journeys because, everyone, you put yourself out there. And I just wish for some reason how did you get the courage to say, I'm going to try this? And how did you know it's going to work?
I got the courage to try it because someone believed in me. Okay. And my husband said, go for it. And I said, well, what if I fail? And he said, so you fail and you learn something.
That's what Matt says.
Yeah.
I'm still scared.
Those darn husbands.
Yeah, and at the time, like financially, we were not in a super good place. And it was a financial risk to take. Mm-hmm. But he's a risk taker and believed in me. And I just really think you have to take that first step. And that is a block for you, Leah. Like, there is an illustrator out there who's probably looking for a story to illustrate.
Okay.
And they probably, maybe they don't have the budget to hire someone to write the story. And so just
Oh,
talking.
I see. Sure.
Yeah, so just keep talking to people in your community, in your network, and I bet there's someone out there. Absolutely. And illustrators work with different budgets too. There once was this one illustrator I really, really wanted to hire, and I priced her out, and it was so much money. It was $15,000 for one 32-page picture book. And when I first got started, I think maybe one of the illustrators that we were looking at was like $1,000.
Wow,
so
big
you
difference.
can see,
Yeah.
really big
Yeah.
difference.
Okay.
And who knows, there could be someone out there who will do it for $50. So I think just talking about your passion and talking about that dream will really help it to come to fruition.
Yes. So thank you for being an encouragement to me and others that, like you were just saying, networking and just going out and talking to people. You never know who you're going to find,
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
thank you for being an inspiration to me and others.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, what's your best advice for somebody who's writing a book for fellow authors?
Yeah, I think my best advice would be to, once you're writing the story, start building your platform. And what that means is you don't have to wait till the book is published to have a website or a blog or a social media handle like Twitter. You can start building your network as a writer. It doesn't have to be as an author. So if I were sitting down writing my first children's book, I would start getting on Instagram and posting pictures of books that I really enjoy and talking about literacy and trying to connect with the teachers and the parents out there who ultimately are going to be my audience. So that's my best advice, is to start building your platform the minute you start writing, not when you get published.
That's a great
Wow,
idea.
thank you.
Yes.
Excellent idea. Excellent.
We've never thought about that. We haven't discussed that before. So
No, yeah, you're the
that
first
that
author
is
to discuss that.
very-
So thank you.
We've talked about Facebook a million times, but nobody says to start Facebook when you start writing.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. So what of the social media, what has been the most helpful with you?
With social media, the most helpful thing has been scheduling it for me. I don't want to be the mom who my children think that I love my phone more than than I love them. So what I've done is I have a couple people on my team, and what I do is I spend like a whole hour to 2 hours once a month. I sit down, I think of everything I want to share on social media. For example, Facebook. We're posting 5 times a day on my Facebook page. So I'm thinking about 5 things per day I want to share. Then what I do is I give that in a spreadsheet to someone on my team, and they schedule it. They use a program like Hootsuite. So they're not spending every day, they're not getting on Facebook 5 times a day posting this stuff for me, and I'm not doing that either. It takes a chunk of time, and it's scheduled, and it goes out at appropriate times.
Wow. Well,
So-
congratulations.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can think of 5 things to do for every day. You can sit down. You can come up
Well,
with
you
that
know,
many. That sounds
yeah,
like
so-
a daunting
well,
task.
Well, so since I've been doing this for 9 years, so I have a lot of blog posts that I've written over the last 9 years. So we do a lot of repurposing. So we'll share a blog post from 5 years ago, and a holiday's coming up. Well, we share not only my information, but you'll share other people's information. So it's a lot of different things that you can do.
Sure.
It's not just, so it's really not hard, actually. It's, it's not, because there's so much content out there.
Right.
You can share videos, you can share quotes, you can share articles, blog posts, all different kinds
Right.
of
And
things.
then do you repeat? Like we talked to an author named Aaron Walker, and he says that he repeats his posts. Like people, there's only so much time you're on Twitter, but if you send the tweet out 5 times or 5 times during the week, you're not necessarily going to hit the same person twice.
Yes, that's correct. And the same with Facebook. The algorithms don't allow people to see all 5 of my posts in a day.
Oh,
So,
really? Interesting.
well, just because of the way it's set up, unless the person is on there the whole entire 12 hours,
I have that friend, I think. No, just kidding.
But yeah, no, just the way it is. So
Okay.
the recommendation is actually like 7 to 14 times a day, but I don't want people to get sick of me, so I said 5 is good.
Right. Yeah, the idea is not to have people stop following you. It's
Yes,
to enjoy
yes.
following you and
Yeah, but
learn
I do
something from it.
I do repurpose, and what our rule of thumb is not to do it until 6 weeks have passed. So
Okay.
we kind of just keep everything in these Google Sheets and reuse, and it's become a really good system.
Wow.
Congratulations.
You sound very organized.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I do have a few junk drawers in my home, so not quite.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Maria. We really, really had fun talking to you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you having this for, authors to be able to listen to and learn from.
Sure. And we learned a ton from you, so thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
You are welcome, and whoever's listening is welcome to connect with me.
Thank you. So the exciting news is that the author inside you is going to have a contest on our Facebook page. Maria has offered to give us one of her books as a prize.
Be sure to join our Facebook group in order to be entered for the contest. The drawing is Wednesday, October 11th, 2017.
Until next time.
Right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.